Welcome to the Time of Stories channel. Every day a new story about love and betrayal. Don't forget to subscribe. Jack. Yes, she thought she was being clever. What she didn't know was that I'd already heard everything from someone she worked with who was disgusted by it all. I was making my own plans and getting ready. Fortunately, I had enough time to control my anger and prepare for what was coming. Everything starts tonight, right after dinner. Kayla. So it's happening tonight, my friend Mary asked. Yes, finally, I'm going to do it. I'll wait until after dinner, bring him a beer, and then tell him what's going to happen. I replied, just don't forget to be strong. He won't like it, but you need to stay firm. I know. Just like we planned. He has no choice. This is how it's going to be, and if he truly loves me, he'll let me do this for my own happiness. Right. Just be prepared for him to yell and resist. He'll try to fight it. But in the end, he'll come around and accept the new reality. The key is for you to stay calm yet firm. Let him have his reaction, and then he'll understand that you're in charge here. Exactly. Besides, as far as he knows, it's only temporary. Once he accepts it, he might even start to like it. Then things will just keep going. Are you sure about all of this? Jack can be very stubborn. Listen, Kayla, Jack loves you more than anything. Sure, he'll be angry at first, but once he calms down, he'll realize he loves you enough to do whatever it takes to make you happy, even this. All right, I guess you're the expert. Trust me, it took messing up 2 marriages to figure this all out, but I perfected the method with my third, my current husband. Now he's completely under my control. He even stands by the bed while I'm with one of my partners. Sometimes, I even make him help me freshen up afterward. In a month or so, Jack will fall into line too. Then you'll have both the security of your marriage to Jack and the enjoyment of a few other men. I finished my day and headed home to prepare Jack's favorite dinner. When he got home, he greeted me warmly with "I love you" and kissed me on the cheek as usual. Despite my careful planning, I still felt a little nervous. This was going to be a big step, a major change in our marriage, but it was all worth it. Mary had been telling me about our female-led relationship for quite some time. I'd seen firsthand how it worked for her and her husband. He seemed genuinely happy with how their marriage had turned out. I was confident Jack would feel the same. Our dinner conversation was pleasant. We shared stories about our day and talked over some current events. It was an ordinary evening for us. After dinner, I insisted he take a beer and relax while I tittied up. He resisted a little, wanting to help, but I reassured him that I could handle it. I cleared the table, loaded the dishwasher, and then it was time. Pouring myself a glass of wine, I mentally prepared myself and went into the living room for the big talk. "Jack, darling, we need to talk," I began. "Of course, sweetheart." "What's on your mind?" "All right, Jack, I realize this might be hard for you to accept right now, but it's something I really feel I need to do. Please remember, it's only temporary." "All right, so what do you need?" "If it's that important to you, of course, I'll do whatever I can to make you happy." So far, he was taking this surprisingly well. He hadn't even shown any concern. Good. "So we've talked about starting a family, and I'm almost ready for that, but there are a few things I feel I need to do first. It should take only a couple of months at most, and then we can start focusing on having kids." "That's great, honey. So, what are these things you need to do?" This was it. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for what could be a big reaction. "Well, Jack, I need to get my last bit of wild oats out of my system. It's only temporary, and afterward, I'll be able to settle down completely and be the best wife and mother you could ever dream of." "All right, my love. That sounds reasonable so far. But how exactly do you plan to sow these wild oats?" Well, he was actually handling this well. I'd expected him to blow up. "For a little while, I'll be seeing other men. We'll still be together, and I'll still be with you regularly, but I'll also spend time with a few other guys just to clear my head. Keep in mind, it's just physical. You're the only one who has my heart. In a couple of months, I'll come back to you fully, ready to be a loyal wife again, and then we can work on having the children we've planned for." Well, Kayla, it seems like you're not asking my permission for this, so I assume you've already made up your mind. If that's the case, I'd like to officially say that I don't support this. If you're asking for my approval or consent, I'm not giving it. However, you're an adult with your own decisions to make, so I won't stop you if you truly feel this is necessary. This was going better than I could have imagined. He hadn't even raised his voice. Everything was said in a calm, conversational tone. Mary must be right. Jack will eventually accept the new role I have planned for him. So, Kayla, how exactly is this going to work? Are you moving out, or do you expect me to leave? Are you bringing them here, or going to their place or a hotel? Oh, well, I decided we'd both continue living here. After all, we're still married, and like I said, we'll still be intimate. The other guys will just be casual. With you, it'll be real love. I'd imagine I'll go to them sometimes, but I might bring them here occasionally too. When that happens, you need to stay in the spare bedroom on those nights. I really don't see the need to pay for a hotel room when we can just use the house. All right, let me repeat that I don't support this. However, I insist that we won't be intimate while this is happening. I'm sorry, but it's for my own health. Since I have no idea who these people are or where they come from, I'm not willing to risk catching any illnesses they might pass on to you. Also, once you're done and decide to come back to me, we'll need to wait until you've been tested and cleared of anything. Go ahead and do what you feel you need to do. Don't worry about me. Well, Jack, I can't say I'm not a bit disappointed about this. After all, I love you and always enjoy our time together, but I understand your concerns. I guess I'll have to live with it. All right, dear. So, when do you plan to start these little adventures? Well, Mary and I decided to go to a club tomorrow night and meet up with a couple of guys from work. I'm not sure how things will go, but I might bring one of them back for the night. Since you're choosing not to be intimate with me while this is happening, maybe it would be easier if you just move into the spare room for the next couple of months. All right, Kayla, don't worry about it. I'll make sure to move in there by the time you get back tomorrow night, Jack said, then went back to reading his newspaper. I could hardly believe how mature he was being about all this. My heart soared. Sure, he had minor objections and didn't want to be intimate for now, but he was completely accepting everything. He wasn't even the least bit angry. Mary was definitely right. In 2 months, Jack would be completely under my control. Besides, I knew this break from intimacy was only temporary. In a week or two, he'd be back in my bed. Then I'd use a little gentle persuasion to help him fully embrace his new role as my devoted little husband. The next day. Hi, Mary. It's Kayla. Hey, girl. So how did it go last night? Oh my goodness. You wouldn't believe how mature Jack was about everything. I expected him to explode, but he didn't even raise his voice. He was just so calm and accepting. Wow, that's great. I told you he'd come around. Do you think you'll be able to convince him to watch tonight? I doubt it. Actually, I don't think I'll even suggest it. He said he wouldn't be intimate with me while I'm seeing other people. I'm sure that won't last long. After a week or two of relying on his own hand, knowing there's a beautiful woman nearby, he'll come around. He'll probably be so eager that you could even tease him a bit after you've been with someone else. That could be fun. Since he refused to be close with me, I went ahead and had him move into the spare room. He's packing up his things now. He promised he'd be fully moved out of the ladies' bedroom before I get home tonight. Haha. I love that you renamed it from the master bedroom to the ladies' bedroom. I'll have to start doing that myself. Oh, definitely. Anyway, I should probably start getting ready. See you at the club. All right. Bye-bye. Later that evening, Jack had made good progress packing up his things for my bedroom. I wasn't sure why he felt the need to box everything up when he could have just carried things down the hall, but he explained it would be easier this way. Fewer trips, and he could sort through everything, leaving items he didn't really need in boxes to get rid of. I suppose that made sense, but I was too focused on getting ready to think much about it. He did tell me how attractive I looked in my outfit. He didn't say anything when I put on the little red cocktail dress I got for our 5th anniversary last year. It was actually the only time I'd worn it, but I looked fantastic in it. All right, Jack, I said, picking up my clutch and heading for the door. On heading out, I'll probably be back around 1, so you don't need to wait up. On the other side, I probably won't be alone. Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll be out by then, he promised, closing up the last box. I walked out of the house. Something didn't sit right with me. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but it nagged at me a bit. I decided it didn't matter, so I pushed it out of my mind and focused on the fun and excitement waiting for me tonight. I met Mary, Larry, and Josh at the club. Larry and Josh were client managers. Both were very attractive, and according to Mary and a few other girls in the office, they were also very well endowed. While Jack was a bit above average, I was eager to experience someone even larger. Supposedly, they weren't just big but knew exactly how to use what they had. So Jack actually moved into the spare bedroom. Mary asked as our first round arrived. Yes, he had just finished packing up his things when I left. He promised he'd be completely moved out by the time I got back, I replied. He really said that? Josh asked. Yes, when I told him what time I'd be home, he said, and I quote, I'll be out by then. The 4 of us laughed. Dan, I was hoping we'd just get that little guy to budge over so we could do it right next to him on the bed, Larry laughed. Maybe after a week or 2 of working on him, I giggled. But first, why hasn't any of you invited me to dance yet? We spent a few hours dancing and drinking. I danced with both guys a few times, pressing close during the slow songs, feeling their bodies against me. Of course, their hands were on my back for most of the night. Mary and I headed to the ladies' room to discuss how the night would end. After 3 rounds of rock, paper, scissors, it was decided I'd take Josh home, and Mary would go with Larry. The house was dark when I led Josh through the front door. Jack must already be in bed. That's fine. We didn't need him to be watching anyway. I took Josh down the hall to my room. Sure enough, all of Jack's things were gone. Maybe I'd thank him with a small gesture later. But for now, I had other matters to focus on. It didn't take long for us to start undressing. Josh asked me to keep my stockings on. I'd lost my outfit a couple of hours ago. I wasn't sure who Larry or Josh had taken it, but it didn't matter. I could always buy another. The next 2 hours were pure bliss. I started with some foreplay to make sure he'd last longer when we got started. We began in a comfortable position, then moved to a different one, finishing the first round with me taking the lead. After a brief break, I kept the energy up and took control again, switching things up to keep it exciting. I lost count of how many times I felt that rush. It was an experience unlike anything else and left me thinking maybe I'd consider trying something new with Jack for his birthday or our anniversary, something different to keep things fresh. The only minor letdown was that Josh declined to reciprocate with certain attentions. Jack always did that for me, usually more than once, before anything else. Josh laughed and said that just showed how weak Jack was, insisting that real men had other ways to please a woman. We ended the night with another round in the shower and then once more in the morning. Afterward, Josh had to head home to his wife and kids, so I put on my robe and went to get some coffee. I was a bit disappointed that Jack hadn't made any yet. It was already past 9, and he's usually up by then. I'd have a talk with him later about it. Really, would it hurt him to make coffee and breakfast after I've been out late? That little gesture would mean a lot more than anything else I considered offering him as a thank you for moving to the spare room. After breakfasting on a bagel, I took a shower and got dressed. The hot water was exactly what I needed to ease my sore muscles. With no plans for the day, I opted for an old pair of shorts and a t-shirt. Since I'd just be around Jack, I wore a functional bra and a comfortable pair of regular underwear. I just finished pulling my hair into a ponytail when the phone rang. "Hey, girl," I answered, seeing it was Mary. "Hey, lovely. So how was Josh last night?" "He was fantastic, and everything went just as I'd hoped. The only small downside was that he didn't agree to one specific request." "Yeah, Larry won't either. You'll find that most real men don't do that. That's why I have a husband who's amazing at it and never says no when I ask, even if I've already had a little excitement elsewhere." Incredible. Jack always takes his time with me, making sure I have at least 2 amazing moments before moving on to the next step, and he's really good at it. Speaking of Jack, how did he react this morning? I'm not sure. I'm a little annoyed because he still seems to be asleep. I was disappointed that he didn't make me breakfast and coffee this morning. I thought about doing something nice for him as a thank you for moving to the spare room, but now I don't think so. Yes, make sure he knows how disappointed you are and what you expect from now on. Keep being assertive with him, but make sure to give him small rewards when he does something good. That'll motivate him to try even harder. I'm actually getting annoyed that he's still not up. Hold on a minute while I drag his lazy self out of bed. I walked down the hall to the spare room and knocked hard on the door, calling his name. No answer. I tried again. Still no response. Finally, I turned the handle and swung the door open. "Oh, no," I exclaimed. "What happened?" Mary asked over the phone. "Jack's not in the spare room. His clothes aren't even in the closet." "Hold on," I said, quickly moving through the house. Dan, his truck is gone, along with all his tools. That nagging feeling at the back of my mind was starting to make sense. "Oh, no," I gasped. "What? What is it?" Mary asked. "Jack moved out. Now I get what he was saying. He never said he'd move his stuff into the spare room. He only said he'd move his things out of my room. Then he said he'd be out by the time I got home. I thought he meant he'd move to the spare room, but he meant he was moving out of the whole house. Dan, I need to call him and find out where he went." No. That's not right. Reaching out to him sends a signal of weakness. You need to stay strong. Don't contact him. Let him come to you. Trust me, he's just having a little meltdown. In a few days, he'll come crawling back to you. This is actually a great thing. Now you have a reason to address him and make him understand your needs. Are you sure? Of course. Look at what my husband does for me. Well, I have to admit, you've been right so far. Of course. Oh, and Larry wants to meet you in the storage room at work around an hour into Monday. Will we really get away with that? Definitely. At least half the girls are doing it. It's so busy that I have to keep everything on a schedule. I'll email you the meeting time. Just mark it as an off-site meeting. Don't worry, the boss never goes there, and everyone who needs something from that room knows to ask me first before going in. We chatted a bit more before hanging up. I'll admit I was nervous about Jack moving out. Despite everything I'd been doing, I genuinely love him and want to spend the rest of my life with him. Mary just made the filler idea sound so appealing, giving me the chance to explore different experiences. Of course, eventually I'd stop seeing other men, but Jack would remain my loyal and devoted husband. Maybe, a few years down the line, I could even work out an arrangement with Jack to let me tie him up if I agreed to stop seeing other guys. Not that I'd be ready to give it all up just yet, but he doesn't need to know that. Maybe I could use that as a condition for him coming back. Something to think about. Anyway, I needed to recover after last night, especially with a long, busy day at work tomorrow. I laughed to myself, prepared a simple dinner, had a glass of wine, and headed to bed. Friday morning. I hadn't heard anything from Jack all week. Mary assured me this wasn't too surprising and was confident I'd hear from him soon. Plus, the longer he stayed away, the more terms I could set for his return. Every day this week, I'd met with Larry, Josh, and a couple of other nice guys in the storage room. Today, I even had a double session planned with Larry and Josh. It was Friday morning, and the four of us, Larry, Josh, Mary, and I, were chatting around the coffee maker during our break when we noticed a rather attractive young woman approaching. She was dressed very professionally. Kayla Adams, Mary Morgan, Josh Johnson, and Larry Jones, she asked in a sweet southern accent that we introduced ourselves, and then she handed each of us an envelope, quickly snapping a photo with a small digital camera. "You've all been served," she said, turning and heading toward our boss's office. "What is this?" I called after her, honey. "I get paid to deliver them, not to read them." She replied over her shoulder with a grin. She walked straight into our boss's office without knocking and came out less than a minute later. "I hope you all have a nice day," she said cheerfully as she left the building that we all opened our individual envelopes at the same time. Petition for divorce. Oh no, as I read further, the cause listed was marital infidelity. I was frozen in shock. About that time, both Josh's and Larry's cell phones started ringing. "Oh, crap," they both shouted. It would be too complicated to detail both conversations here, so I'll summarize. Their wives had just called, having received all the evidence of their affairs a few minutes earlier. Their belongings were about to be thrown out, and from now on, they'd have to take turns sleeping somewhere else. They were also informed to expect divorce papers at the earliest opportunity. "What the hell?" came a roar from deep within our boss's office. Suddenly, he appeared in the doorway. Spotting the four of us, he bellowed loud enough for the entire office, which was not small, to hear. "Adams, Morgan, Johnson, Jones, get your seats in here now." I had a very bad feeling. With heads down, we filed past him into his office. He shut the door behind us. Bad didn't even begin to cover it. "Would one of you care to explain this to me?" he asked, waving a manila envelope in front of us. None of us dared to speak. "Then let me enlighten you," he continued. "Apparently, the company is being sued for failing to uphold the moral code outlined in our employee handbook. Any idea why someone would want to do that?" Once again, we couldn't bring ourselves to speak. "Then let me spell it out for you. We're being sued because it seems Mrs. Adams can't keep her legs closed. Mr. Jones and Mr. Johnson can't keep their business in their pants, and Mrs. Jones Morgan has turned our storage room into the company's private lounge. Now, would one of you be so kind as to assure me that none of this is true? Can any one of you confirm that, at the very least, none of this nonsense happened during work hours or on company property? Anyone? No. Are you serious? What were you thinking? What a real mess is. This court order doesn't even allow me to let you go until this whole mess is resolved. Now get out of my office while I figure out what to do with you for." With heads down, we left his office and headed back to our desks. After that, I barely got any real work done. At least I still had a job, for now. I decided to review the divorce petition to see just how bad things would get. It was bad. He had photos, videos, audio, and even a few notarized letters. I was going to be royally screwed. An hour later, an email from the boss went out to the entire company. To all employees, management has become aware of repeated incidents where employees have engaged in activities that directly violate the company's moral code of conduct as detailed in the employee handbook, specifically concerning work hours and company property. Given that these actions were committed by multiple employees and the likelihood that this issue is more widespread than currently documented, decisive measures will be taken. Since management cannot be certain of the extent of these violations or the number of employees involved, the following steps are being implemented. All employees are required to review the Moral Code section in the Employee Handbook. An online training class will be available over the weekend, and every employee must complete this course successfully by next Friday. Security will conduct random inspections of all secluded areas throughout the day. This will occur multiple times a day until permanent security cameras are installed to monitor these areas. From this point on, the storage room will remain locked. The key will be held by the head of security, and any needed supplies will be accessed with a security escort. It will closely monitor computer usage to ensure no personal activities are conducted on company assets. Prohibited activities include, but are not limited to, planning non-work related meetings with colleagues or other individuals during work or non-work hours using personal email accounts on company computers, browsing non-work related websites, sending text messages not related to work. Communication with colleagues must be strictly limited to the break room during scheduled breaks and lunch periods. Security personnel will monitor the building to enforce this in accordance with company policy. The names of individuals responsible for these actions will not be disclosed. I am confident this won't be necessary. 2 minutes later, my email exploded with hate messages from colleagues. I met up with the other 3 after work at the bar across the street. We sat at a small table in the corner. A few colleagues were there for Friday happy hour too. Yes, the looks they gave us were far from friendly. Well, at least we still have jobs, at least for now. That was considerate of him, I said. But why do you think Jack included this in the divorce filing? Oh, please, Josh replied. It's painfully obvious. He wasn't trying to spare you any hurt. He did it to hurt you even more. What do you mean? Alimony. Right now, it might not matter because he's using infidelity as the reason, but this is his insurance against it. If you have a good job and decent income, there's no way a judge would grant you alimony. But if you get fired and can't find another job, a sympathetic judge might be convinced that you need financial help until you get back on your feet. So you stay employed until the divorce is finalized. Lucky you. Then, as soon as it's over, all four of us are likely out of here with a pink slip. And then what? No alimony and suddenly no job. You get completely screwed, and unlike me, without the benefit of any assistance. No, this definitely wasn't about helping you in any way. Dan. Then I'll just quit on Monday. Oh, seriously? Are you really that clueless? Asked Larry. What do you mean? Quitting means you're leaving the job of your own accord. If you even try to ask for alimony after voluntarily leaving a good-paying job right after the divorce is filed, the judge will be suspicious. Good luck convincing the judge that it wasn't a setup to get financial support from your ex. No, your best bet is to hold on to your job as long as possible and save every penny you can. It's going to be even worse for Josh and me. You can bet our wives will get alimony and child support since we both have kids. What do you think will happen when we're suddenly out of work and can't find another job that pays nearly as much? Keep in mind that alimony and child support are based on income at the time of the divorce. Dan, this Evlar thing suddenly doesn't sound so great anymore. I realized I needed to talk to Jack and try to work things out. Sure, I wanted to help my friends, but I couldn't lose my husband. What was I thinking? To hell with my friends if I had to throw them under the bus to save my marriage, so be it. I quickly pulled out my phone. Sorry, the number you've dialed is not accepting calls from this number. Damn it, Mary, give me your phone. Why? Because Jack blocked my number. I need to talk to him and fix this mess. She handed me her phone, and my three companions looked at me skeptically. Sorry, the number you've dialed is not accepting calls from this number. Dan, he blocked yours too. Try Larry or Josh's phone. Not a great idea. I'm trying to make things right. What do you think he'll do if he finds out the first call I'm making is from one of my lover's phones? Yes, I know. You're probably already thinking I'm an idiot. At this point, I can't even argue with that. I was panicking. How do I find a husband who doesn't want to be found on a Friday night? Waiting for him at his office was pointless as it was also closed, and he doesn't work weekends. With my cell number blocked, along with Mary's, I was pretty sure he blocked our home and work phones too. I realized a phone call wouldn't work anyway. I needed to do this face to face. I had to figure out where he was and set up a way to meet him. Forget all this nonsense about a female-led marriage. Right now, I'd happily submit completely, just to have him back. How quickly things had changed. Only this morning, I've been thinking about making him understand and come home. Any guesses on who'd be understanding now? I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through my contacts. Surely, at least one of his friends would know where I could find him. Unfortunately, none of our mutual friends knew anything. Well, that's not entirely true. None of our former mutual friends who stayed friends with me knew anything. Plenty of our mutual friends who now disliked me knew enough. Unfortunately, while they had no reservations about letting me know that they knew exactly where he was, they also flatly refused to give me any details. They laughed in my face when I asked if they'd be kind enough to pass on a message from me. I had just ended my last call, finishing my fourth drink in a rather gloomy mood. That's when Josh decided to share his idea. Yeah, it's that sarcasm. Maybe it was just my mood at the time, or maybe it was simply the difference between how a woman thinks and how a man thinks. Some of you might actually find Josh's suggestion clever. Me? I didn't. Well, Josh started. Since our lives are already a mess, why don't we just head to Kayla's and spend the whole night together, the four of us? We've already had some fun. We might as well make it an all-nighter. He thought it was sound logic. Maybe for him, but I just had a big dose of common sense. Sure, if there was nothing left to lose, then maybe it'd be something to consider. Personally, though, I felt there was still a tiny chance for Jack and me. That slim chance would disappear faster than a drop of water on the surface of the sun if I brought everyone over for an all-night gathering. I politely declined and suggested Mary take them home. I had a husband I was trying to win back. I tried everything I could think of over the weekend to find Jack. I spent hours driving around motel parking lots, searching for his truck. I drove by his friends' houses at different times to see if his truck was there. I even tried to follow his best friend when I saw him leaving his house, hoping he'd lead me to Jack. None of it worked. Monday morning, I camped out across the street from his workplace. I saw everyone arrive that morning, but Jack never showed. I waited another hour, still nothing. Even though I was late for work, I didn't care. To hell with it. They weren't going to let me go right now, and I'd be out once everything was settled anyway. But none of that mattered. I got out of my car and headed into his office building. I noticed Jack's office door was closed, so I asked the receptionist if he was in. She told me he was away for 2 weeks. Damn. The boss shot me a nasty glare when I walked in 2 hours late. I couldn't care less. All the phones I could use are blocked. His friends refuse to help. I can't even get a message to him at work. I have no idea where he is, so I can't show up on his doorstep. Mail isn't an option because I don't know where to send it. What options do I have? Email. He always checks his email. I just have to hope he hasn't blocked mine. There's no harm in trying. Jack, I have no excuse, so I won't waste our time trying to give you one. I'll only say that I somehow caught a foolishness bug. I don't blame Mary for this because I made my own decisions, but it just sounded so wonderful hearing her talk about a female-led marriage. I have no idea what made me think there was even the slightest chance you'd accept it. Yes, I should have known better. I'm so sorry it took a metaphorical slap to wake me up. Now I'm awake. I need you to know that I am deeply ashamed and regret my actions. I realize you may not accept this at all. Jack, despite my recent behavior, I truly love you with everything in me. Don't think for a second that you did anything wrong. It's just that I was incredibly foolish and selfish. Jack, my love, even though I don't deserve it, I'm begging you to forgive me. I need you to let me come back, and I'm willing to give you everything to make that happen. I see now how ridiculous it was for me to try to create an FLR, but I would be overjoyed to be part of an MLR. Yes, Jack, I'm giving you my heart, and you only have to command. I will literally do anything you want to be back where I belong, with you. Yes, I understand the meaning of anything. Please, Jack, I am offering you everything. You know I've never had even the slightest interest in women, yet I'd share in your pleasures with another woman if it meant getting back with you. I'd serve you and any of your friends at a Super Bowl party wearing only a garter belt, stockings, and high heels, if that would bring me back to you. Want to take control? Just tell me to bend over the nearest chair, regardless of who's around. Would a spanking with a belt help? Just let me know when and where I'll even bring the belt. Since you have no reason to trust me, I'll gladly wear a chastity belt and hand you the keys. As part of coming back to you, I've already had blood drawn for a health test. The results should be back in a couple of days. Tell me where to send them, and I'll deliver them to you. Jack, I know that no matter what, you're the best person I've ever known. I know you could never bring yourself to hurt me, even if I might deserve it. You can discipline me, humiliate me in front of our friends, treat me as yours, correct my behavior, or even tattoo me anything. I accept all that. I'm not asking you to forget or even to trust me again. All I ask is the chance to be yours in whatever way you choose. I'm asking for nothing except to come back to you. Forever. Even if that means agreeing to a divorce or watching you be with other women. I pray it doesn't come to that, but I understand that it's not my choice. I'm the one at fault, and I acknowledge that you may want to even the score. As for Mary, Larry, Josh, and the lawsuit against my company, Mary manipulated me and convinced me to go along with this plan. Josh and Larry took advantage of it. As you know, I'll be let go as soon as the company settles the lawsuit. We're all responsible. Do whatever you want with them. I'll even help if you wish. After all, from this moment on, I'm your willing servant. Your loving servant, Kayla. Fortunately, Jack hadn't blocked my email yet. Even more surprisingly, he actually read it. No, he didn't believe my words. After all, I had already broken the biggest promise I'd ever made, the one about leaving everyone else behind. Since I broke that promise, what would make him think I wouldn't break any others? All I could do was prove it to him, one action at a time. It's been 2 years since I sent that letter. Josh and Larry went through difficult divorces. All four of us were let go the day after the company settled the lawsuit. Eventually, Josh and Larry managed to find new jobs, but at significantly lower pay. They had to move into a small 2-bedroom apartment in one of the rougher parts of town. Since no decent woman wants to date a guy barely able to afford rent, their social lives are pretty much non-existent. Their ex-wives use this opportunity to turn the kids against them. I hear both women are in much better relationships now. As for me, right now, I'm kneeling by the bed, unclothed with an accessory and a belt as part of my penance while Jack finishes his routine. Did I put all this in that letter? Yes, Jack wanted to test me and see if I keep my word. If I wanted to win him back, I didn't have much of a choice. The first 6 months were difficult, but eventually, he eased up a bit. He still makes me follow certain routines like this one, but things have improved. Now, he only brings other women home once every couple of months. I've even gotten used to accepting that part of our relationship. After being let go, I stopped working. Jack got promoted and earns enough for us to live comfortably without my income. I mostly stay at home to care for the kids in the house. We have 2-year-old twins now. Most of the time, I'm dressed casually at home, though Jack recently mentioned I'll need to start wearing regular clothes more often since the kids are getting older, and it might otherwise seem odd. For now, I only dress fully when going out or when we have guests. I still answer the door as is for deliveries. I now have piercings on my chest and in a private area, and I have to say, I like it. The sensitivity is much higher. I also had laser hair removal done, leaving a permanent strip that reveals my tattoos. On the right side is Jack, and on the left property. Every week, Jack also refreshes 5 red stripes on my backside with a strap. Right after the 5th stripe, he removes the plug and has his way while I lean over the couch. I'm not perfect. Sometimes there are extra stripes on my backside or chest when I mess up, but I honestly enjoy it. Who knew the strap's stain would cause such a reaction? As for Mary, well, she's still married. Of course, she was let go too. But no one really expected her to face any serious consequences. Her husband is completely under her control. She'll just find another job, and life will go on for her. Well, life isn't always fair. Yes, indeed. It turns out Harold wasn't the submissive pushover everyone thought. Once he gathered all the evidence, he got furious. I thought I'd had a rough 2 years, but that was a picnic compared to what she went through. After deciding she'd had enough punishment, he handed her divorce papers. While putting Mary through a difficult time, he quietly liquidated all their assets and secured them. He left her the house after refinancing it and taking all the equity, then disappeared. She lost the house, and the money was gone. She found another job, but it only paid half of what she used to earn. She's also dealing with a tarnished reputation. And as of now, she's not seeing anyone. She's still on medication for another month. You're probably wondering why I put up with this or laughing that I got what I deserved. If you're angry that Jack didn't leave me out in the cold, I thank God every day that he didn't, even though I deserved it. I put up with this because I simply can't imagine life without the love of my life. Sure, Jack disciplines and humbles me, but he still loves me. He's with other women, but never without me. I can leave whenever I want, and Jack's shown me the papers proving he'd be completely fair in a divorce. I turned down his offer. He's an amazing father, lover, and husband. I don't need anything more. I got so caught up in the idea of a female-led marriage that I lost sight of what truly mattered. Instead of finding happiness in an equal relationship, I've now become devoted to my husband. It wasn't supposed to happen this way, but I'm content.